All right, everybody. Welcome to We Have Absolutely No Idea.
We haven't discovered a name yet.
We have no name. We don't even know what we are technically doing. I'm Justin O'Connell, and this is Benji Lewis, a good friend of mine.
How you doing, Justin?
How's it going, Benji?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I'm trying to determine our lag time. It's probably just under a second or so.
Yeah, there's a lag
It's
time.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I'm still on Wi-Fi. I might have to hardwire next time, but everything's coming through pretty good. It's good to see you, man. It's been a really long time. We've talked about doing a podcast together well, you had the seed of the idea about 10 years ago or so, right? And now it's germinating. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I did a podcast for a little while called like Our Very Own Special Show, and it was like just dumb, like trashy discussions. It was like based on like early Joe Rogan stuff, which was just sitting around and like
Total BSing.
yeah, yeah, near like toilet humor type stuff. And
Uh-huh.
I hope that all of that stuff has gone down the memory hole.
Maybe not. I'm still wondering if I can delete old Facebook accounts. So we'll see.
But I guess, yeah, we've Benji and I have wanted to do this for a while, and we're finally getting around to it amid extraordinary times. And those times we will not be talking about whatsoever. We'd rather be talking about what in the world are we even doing?
That's it. Like that's a perfectly good, valid question for a podcast we know nothing about. I mean, when you had the idea of the podcast, you were kind of ahead of the curve in that sense. Podcasts were just picking up. This was 2009. You were a student at Linfield College, and we had met there. I was doing a talk. We had met there. That you'd set it up, I believe. Is that correct?
I don't, I don't think so.
Well, you are already active in journalism. You were doing things. I'm
They,
pretty
they
sure you
didn't
were
let
active.
me, they didn't let me do journalism at Linfield College.
No, did they shut you down?
I wanted to write for the paper there, but
Uh-huh.
um, like you had to. So I went to high school at San Diego Academy in Encinitas here, and it was kind of like a free for all, and they let you like express your creativity. So when it came to like the journalism thing, there you could like come up with ideas and write
Mhm.
about them. But at Linfield is a lot more top down. So you had to like pretty much write about the football team or like the latest like directives from the president of the college or something about like I don't know being very square and boring. So
That's so funny though, man, because I had the same experience. And Linfield was a private liberal arts college. Is that correct?
yeah,
I had the same experience when I finally went back to a 4 year and was 30 or 31. And I went to a very small private liberal arts college called Sierra Nevada College. It's now Sierra Nevada University. And the reason I went there is because I freaking love the liberal arts so much. And I think that was one of the things that generated a lot of our topics of conversation. And I found the same thing, that it wasn't uh, quite so liberal in any sense of the words. It was very top down. The subject matter, the prompting, though it came off like, hey, you can sort of do whatever you want. It was like an Animal Farm. Remember an Animal Farm when they're like, well, it's totally voluntary to come out to the meeting on Sunday, but if you don't, then Sierra Nevada University felt quite a lot like that, and I barely made it through kicking and screaming, and I just, especially going in there at 30, it was rough. I don't know what your thoughts were in your early 20s, how you were feeling about it. Probably just as rough.
well, first things first, I want to say that since we've mentioned Linfield and Sierra Nevada College now, they will be receiving bills in the mail for the free promotion that we've given them.
Absolutely.
And
Don't go.
with so I went to, like I said, this high school, which was kind of like anarchy camp in a way. There was like 8 exits, and you could leave at any one of the exits at any time. And as long as you had a good attitude and you got most of your homework done um, reasonably on time, then they kind of let you skate by with things. And then
Yeah.
ending up at Linfield College, it was a lot different because I realized a lot of the kids had gone to high schools where like the entire school had like 200, 300 kids in it, like the whole high school.
Right.
And they were all going crazy. They were like drinking for the first time and partying for the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time. And then they would all like tucker out at like 12 on the clock. And I was like, man. And then the journalism thing like didn't really mesh with me. Like I remember I got an interview with the singer of Bad Religion, and I like it was a I wrote this article on like the new Bad Religion album, and I thought like how much better does it get than this like freaking
Right.
punk rock legend? And they were like, what does this have to do with school? I'm like, this guy's a freaking like professor at Cornell and UCLA. It's like, what does this not have to do with school?
Yeah.
But then that was pretty much the end of that. I was
Absolutely amazing.
I was working with Mike McGuire, and I'm not sure if you remember him. Maybe he has something to do with your
A
talk
little bit.
there. Magoo, he had like long hair, and he was working at the school radio station, and he invited me to come on this show that he had like ideated or came up with, and it was called Question the Official Story. And so I was doing the radio show there, and it was like once a week for an hour, I think, and we would like interview professors until that got canceled right after the bailouts happened, the '08 bailouts, '09 bailouts. And we were kind of like, well, I think we were on air trying to figure out what the heck a billion meant. And
Which is a good question.
that pretty much was the end of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of similar shutdowns happening with the current economic slowdown, but that puts us back to the beginning of this. I feel like there's more opportunity going around here, especially online, than there has been previously. I feel like what a lot of people are going to do instead of doubling down right now and trying to figure things out is they're going to pull back. And I don't think that's probably the right way to go right now. A lot of people are getting sad and depressed and not used to the new routines. And well, like for example, I'm fasting right now. There's plenty of time to do all sorts of good things for your health and mental health, and getting online, starting this up with you, figuring out a name for whatever the hell we're going to call this.
Man, we don't only need a name, but we need like a general direction. But before we get to that, I'm curious about fasting. What's that like?
So I did this last year, almost exactly a year ago. I think I made close to 80 hours of fasting. So this morning I had a cup of yogurt and my On-It supplements, which I will totally plug them too for free promotional ads, because really, really been on it for about a month and they've been totally awesome. So I'm still up in the air if I'm going to try to maintain the supplement regime while I'm doing it. But the first day's the hardest, and it gets remarkably easier after that, especially if you can take long naps and drink a lot of water. And I think it was Dr. Rhonda Patrick who came on Joe Rogan's podcast 5 or 6 times. And I consumed a lot of her work and her research. And then, of course, fasting's come up in my own private research over and over again, historically, literature, spiritually, religion-wise. It's in all the texts. And I can't say enough about it. I love it. I remember last year coming out of my 3-day fast, just completely jazzed, energized, feeling great all around, no regrets. Can't wait to do it again. And I'd like to do it quarterly. And with setting up the Airbnb and the jobs, and then I'm a horrible ski bum these years, and that interferes with my ability to discipline myself and go on a fast. But this is, I think, the pandemic times, quarantine times, everyone should be doing this. Like, if you're healthy, obviously, and I'm got plenty of health and plenty of heft to survive for 3 days. So I'm not worried about my immune system, and I am not leaving the house for the next 3 days anyway. So it's all gravy.
So Danica what's her name? Rhonda Patrick, right? So
Dr. Rhonda Patrick, yeah.
I think she's from San Diego. I forgot to close the window before this, so I'll get to that shortly. I forgot a few things before this.
You're good. It's our pilot episode, man. This is where we get it all out. Yeah.
So Rhonda Patrick, I think she's from San Diego. I've also heard people who are proponents of fasting say that really it's as simple as maybe you have your last meal at night at 8 p.m. and then you eat again until noon the next day, which I don't think would be very hard to do because you can like sleep for that
A
entire
lot of it. Yeah. And I have done it like that too. And if you are a disciplined person that doesn't, that's no problem for, what I recollect from Rhonda Patrick's research that she collected was the benefits are generally the same. Where a quarterly 3-day fast will give you longevity benefits for about 3 months, and the intermittent fasting will give you about the same benefits if you stick to it and you're doing it consistently every day. I tend to enjoy a Chardonnay or two in the evenings, maybe a beer or four, and so intermittent fasting doesn't always work for me. When it does work, I really like it. My brother's doing it right now.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not like too consciously um fasted, but eating at like 8 p.m. and then not eating the next day until like early afternoon, it's like something that I've done quite a bit. And I wonder, like, am I still getting those health benefits of a fast? And then, like, I've been eating a lot of soup lately. Like, I don't make it. My wife makes fantastic soup.
Outstanding.
My soups are like, I would just like throw everything in. I don't even know what I'm doing. I just throw everything in. Like, I'll end up with soups with raw mushrooms at the end because I throw the mushrooms last. But I've been eating chicken soup lately with vegetables in it, and the broth itself, man, it's like superfood.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point of soups, broths, intermittent fasting, everything, and this is a personal opinion, but every single diet I've come across, and I've tried a lot over the years, because I've done a lot of different things in the gym and out of the gym and doing whatever, is that basically everything seems to me like you're giving your body a break somehow, whether it's from complex carbohydrates or carbohydrates in general, or really inflammatory sugars, or you're just not eating so your body can process all, that stuff that's going on. And if you're doing smoothies, you're doing soups, you're doing broths, and you're just consciously trying to ease up on your digestive system, which, let's be honest, I mean, we're exposed to a lot of chemicals and pollutants that our bodies didn't naturally evolve with. So I think anytime you can give your body that break, you're doing something beneficial. So a lot of people try to stick, adherently to one diet and they give up. And I just encourage them to, if you fall off for a day, keep going, keep going.
And that's like good advice for anything. Like if you have goals that you're trying to meet and you don't meet them, and Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this, you'll like waste more time having worried about not meeting your goals
Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
like actually not meeting them. And so it's like you got to turn the page. Like in
Mm-hmm.
baseball, they always used to say that. The cool thing about having played baseball was that like if you sucked, you were great. Like if you got a hit 3 times out of 10, you're like legendary status,
Uh-huh.
and you're always told like turn the page, like now you got to go play the field, or you're gonna have another at bat pretty soon. And like I find that a lot of people really do when they don't like meet the goals that they've set for themselves, then like it really saps so much energy out of them. And I can only imagine how much like human capital is wasted, like lamenting past mistakes.
A lot. I mean, I wasted a lot of my 20s doing that. It wasn't until I went to, and this maybe is a longer subject for another time, but I went to a very intensive post-traumatic stress therapy session with the VA hospital. And it was basically 16 weeks of pretty intense psychoanalysis. And one of the things that came out of it went really far back to my childhood. Apparently didn't affect my career in the Marine Corps since we were so well trained, but I had this sort of assumption that if you couldn't do it perfectly, it really wasn't worth doing. And what that did is, instead of getting good at anything, I just didn't do it because I wasn't good at it. And so I didn't get the enjoyment out of it. Once I got past that and into more of a, say clinical psychological mode of incremental progression daily, just small steps, that makes a huge difference. And I think computer games taught me a lot about this since I was in sports, I was in music. And what I'm hearing from your baseball analogy is that life is not a zero-sum game, and you're not going to, most batting averages are in the 30 percentile range, right? And that's really good.
They're like 250. Like that's
Yeah. Right, right. But when you do hit, right, you can make an impact on the game, and the game's going to make an impact on the metagame, and the metagame, could take you to the World Series. So 250 is good. And that was a concept I didn't understand, and that life's not a zero sum game at all, and that it's more of a resource management game. And if you can, poker taught me this: if you're winning 51% of the time, you're winning. And that's great, because 51% is way more attainable than 98%, 99%. So I always strive for second place, because first place just, it takes too much out of you, and I have a lot of interests.
You might end up with a lot of arrows in your backs.
Yeah, that too. That too.
So yeah, you made me think of something that, like, even if you get out in a baseball at bat, if you
Uh-huh.
have a long at bat, a quality at bat, that you can then impact the game in all sorts of ways. So that while it might go down in the scorebook as a failure, that's not necessarily telling the whole story. So, like, for instance, if like you're the first batter of a game and you go up there and you see like 10 different pitches, but you still get out, you've given your teammates the opportunity to like see what pitches this guy has. You've worn out your opponent as well. Like, these are all things that aren't factored into the scorebook that
Right.
I think applies to like life too. Like, you know,
All the massive variables. Yeah, exactly. Because you don't know. You don't know.
so I'm gonna get this my setup finished. Apparently, I'm supposed to be the like experienced one here, but I forgot to totally set up my like area here, so my
Yeah,
computer
you're
is
good.
going down. But I'm curious, like, this is one thing we wanted to talk about in this episode, and
Yeah.
I want to listen to you while I do this.
Okay.
What the heck are we doing? What is the point of this?
Well, like, I really don't know. I mean, I would really enjoy pursuing my interests in the liberal arts, in the social sciences. I think you've got a strong background there. I have just really doubled down on all of this. So I opened up. Well, what happened? Let's catch up quick. I graduated college. I went on dog sledding internship. I came back,
What?
and yeah, that's
I'm
another
gonna
good
take a note.
story.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a note of that.
And what I learned is that a lot of my career fields were not easily monetizable and not easily viable. So in order to do them, I would have to have support. And I moved back to Reno, where I really wanted to be, because I love the mountains out here. And I opened up an Airbnb, and I bought a house with the VA home loan at, the worst time I could have done it, but it doesn't matter, because it was a step in, right? And life's not a zero sum game. So I opened the Airbnb, and that gave me a bit of freedom. And then I started working for the state of Nevada as a veterans representative while I was opening my Airbnb. And I did that for about 3 months. And I just hated life. I hated life. I loved helping veterans, but I really hated life in the cubicle. I really hated the grind, the 8 to 5, the mandatory breaks, all of it. So when my Airbnb caught up and I opened my second room, I was making more income with a bachelor's degree here at my Airbnb than I was working for the state of Nevada as a job connection representative. So I quit the bureaucratic life, and since then I have been just doubling down on my social media for the Airbnb. I've been opening up other social media accounts, and then somewhere in this past year, probably through his efforts, not mine, Gary Vaynerchuk started coming across, I guess my YouTube algorithms or wherever I was, and he was saying a lot of things that resonated with me. And to our earlier point of this strategy is in the execution, not the planning stages, I just started taking off. So when you said, hey, let's do a podcast, I was like, let's do it. So where it's going, I think it's going to be an organic, I have a feeling that we'll probably end up getting into politics and economy more than you and I ever want to, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I'd love to talk about history. My big passions for the past 2 years, I'd say when I got out of college, I was devastated by it in a lot of ways. And I really wanted to understand, not only why I had such a hard time in college, but also why I gave everyone else such a hard time in college. So I went back to psychology, and I spent a lot of time when I was up in Minnesota dog sledding. Obviously, no electricity, not a lot to do. Thinking, reading, and trying to flesh all that out. So lately, my obsessions have really been in psychology and philosophy, and wanting to show people that it's not a bunch of mumbo jumbo, that it has real time applications, real life applications. And I applied to the philosophy program at University of Nevada, Reno, and I got accepted. But they didn't like the paper I wrote, because the paper I wrote was, more or less said, I know all you guys have your double doctorates, but all your papers are pretty worthless, because philosophy is about trying to live a good life, not making a big profit. And that kind of didn't resonate well for them. So I said maybe it wasn't a good fit, and realized that I learned more in YouTube in the last 2 years than I did in all of college. I dropped out of high school because I wasn't learning anything there. So I've always been a self-learner. And I'm not saying that's the way, but it's been shows of like this that we're trying to do here, people talking. So that's a big goal of mine. I don't know what are your 2 cents on what we're doing, where we're going.
Well, I'll say, like, for instance, like in the past, and Gary Vaynerchuk like really helped me understand this, was that like when I forgot to plug in my computer and close the window and then had to move the desk to make it close to the outlet,
Start over.
I would have thought that I ruined the freaking episode.
I
But,
was like that too. Yeah.
but like now I look at that and I'm like, man, that is the dumbest like way of thinking in the world. He says like it's what you say, like not how it
Right.
and all
That
that.
was funny. Well, I mean, a lot of people are listening, but you did get a good butt shot or two and for the camera. So for
And then I had you pinned, and I don't know how this works, Zoom. And just because
okay.
now when I share this on social media, though, we're going to at Sierra Nevada College, Linfield College, Zoom, baseball, everything we've talked about, they're all getting mentioned in our social media. But
Awesome.
I don't know if like this video is going to have you pinned up the entire time up until now when I unpinned you, or if it's going to be going back and forth. But as the audience watches this, so will we, and we'll learn what it's all about. So we got
Yeah.
not being perfect was something that I thought that was real perfect. So like with the butt shots and stuff, it's all part of the learning process. You're talking about like liberal arts and being interested in liberal arts, and like I was thinking today also that like that something I'm interested in too as well, and it's something that perhaps is underserved in the podcasting market. And how can we execute that? And I'm thinking like I see this episode here as like if Jeff Bezos had filmed himself in his garage packing books and shipping them out, that this is that equivalent. And so once we have like our multifaceted publishing company where we've got like a philosophy brand and a history brand and a music brand or whatever, that people are going to come back to this and be like, damn, that's where they started.
I
And
love it.
so like I see like we have an opportunity here is that like we could like record if we pick up topics like history or philosophy or whatever, and we could just contribute that episode to the different like podcasts that we curate really or are starting.
That's great.
So we got like a philosophy podcast and we've got a history podcast, and it's really kind of all under the Justin and Benji brand. And I mean, it doesn't get like you mentioned that you're making more money in your Airbnb than you were like at any of the jobs you could have gone through your liberal arts thing. Like I never even got a job because of my liberal arts degree. Like I've kind of
Yeah.
been doing this. Like I graduated in '09, and
Okay.
the storyline was that there weren't any jobs. Whether or not that's true, I'm not really sure. Like certainly wasn't easy for me to find any jobs. And I did get a job at a gold and silver shop at first for like 2-3 years.
I
And
remember that.
after that, it was straight into the internet. And that meant creating content for the internet and kind of learning the muscle memory that you need to produce content on the internet. So I'm thinking that like with your interests, like now you have we have an opportunity to kind of like share this and by sharing that knowledge. And I think you and I both know a certain podcaster who may or may not be in Ontario, Canada, who literally just shares
I think
his knowledge.
Sudbury.
It's so much, it's so valuable. And so I guess what I'm saying is that, like, yeah, I think that we can do this weekly. We can pick topics, or we'll just let it organically kind of unfold. And whichever show the topic or show or episode falls under, that's kind of where we store it for later. And I think, like, yeah, I was thinking like we could have a history one, a philosophy one, a music one. Like I want to,
That'd be great.
like, I'm in the, like, I'm kind of, my like profession is like precious metals and Bitcoin, which real lately, I've been thinking more and more as a top down invention, Benji. But that's something for a different time.
That'd be a fun talk, because I get that, because you're running a Airbnb host page. I mean, I get lots of investment pages and lots of Bitcoin advertisement, and it's nonstop, and but it's not the real, it's the hokey stuff. It's the guy holding, like $2,000, like, oh, I found a Bitcoin and now I'm a millionaire, and it's not true. But
Yeah.
I have met people that have done very well in that industry as well. So.
Then we've got like, we could do philosophy, history, then we could do the music one, and then maybe the music's more lifestyle one, where we talk about like your dog sledding stuff, and we just talk about music every now and then, because you and I kind of have similar taste in music. Like, I grew up in punk rock, which I've been very disillusioned with. I was quite disillusioned with some posts of some famous punk rockers in the last few weeks, and I had somewhat of an existential crisis, which didn't last too long, but
You seem to pull through real easy there. It looks good. You look good.
okay, good. And then there would be business. Like, we could talk business, like what it's like about like building business in the modern era. Like,
So I'm curious about that, because I'm a total neophyte when it's coming to, I mean, Airbnb is my first experience, and I still haven't filed my taxes. I got
yeah,
11 days. So.
they delayed it for like 90 days.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But it was a personal goal of mine to like just do it. So I'm just going to do it.
That's good.
But they did. They kicked it back till July, I think, mainly for the people that owe money, correct?
No, everyone's filing date is now in like July.
Oh, wild. Wild.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're all staying at home. And so the business thing, yeah. So we'll have like a business podcast, and like, I don't have a ton of incentive about how to make a whole lot of money on the internet, but I've definitely kind of learned, I think, like the I've I've it's like when you go to the gym, like it takes a long time for you to like actually start bulking up and like looking fit. And I feel like I'm sort of at that point where it's like I'm starting to feel good. Like I'm looking a little bit more cut, but like I'm still one of the smallest dudes in the gym compared to those who go every day. That's kind of like where I'm at in the money making online game.
What are your big scars from you? Because you've been doing this for about 10 years, making content, putting it out. Like, I'm curious to what are some of your big learning points that have come out, successes, failures?
Gary always talks about trying a bunch of different things, which is cool. I think if you're going to try a bunch of different things when you're young, you should have some like general direction to while you're doing them. I think one of my biggest weaknesses was that, like, I tried a lot of different things, whether like writing blogs about certain topics and then giving up on it, but just a lot of starting, but not finishing. Like, I got this website, goldsilverbitcoin.com, that I bought in 2012. And like, it could be in a much different place than it is now, but because of my inability, because of my failure to like really focus in on it and like recognize that this was something that I could push forward with and like be happy doing, I am a little bit behind on that. And so creating content like towards a greater goal over the long term is something that I never did. I just kind of like created content all over the place. And now I kind of see that. And then another scar is like not integrating everything with myself. Like we have to like, we feel like we have to compartmentalize like our professional interests with our personal interests. And I think that kind of creates a little like wonky, like train of thoughts inside of our minds. Like, I wish that at 23 years old, I accepted that, I was interested in gold and silver, even though none of my peers were. And it wasn't necessarily like a real cool thing for a millennial to be doing, if that's what I even am. I think I'm a millennial, but I'm not very good at math or astrology. And so like, I kind of like kept that kind of stored off into like, I tried to keep it in a little box and like hide it a bit. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish that I had been more, kind of accepting of that interest of mine. And then same with Bitcoin, I always try to like kind of keep it into like try to keep it stowed away. I saw it as like a professional pursuit first and foremost, but really like professional or personal pursuits, they're all life pursuits in the end. And now I see that like what will help me kind of put some neosporin on that scar and let it maybe heal a little bit more is by like integrating all of these interests and like making a more holistic like approach to life in general. So that's like, I want to play music. I've put up some music lately on Instagram, but that's something I should be doing all the time. But there's no reason to keep it separate from my professional pursuits on like LinkedIn, right? Like I want to put up a concert on LinkedIn of me playing the guitar. And the only difference between that and my Instagram concert is that on LinkedIn, I'm wearing a suit, but it's like
There
the
you
same
go.
thing. And I think that's kind of like playing loose with the way that Gary Vaynerchuk plays loose. Like Gary Vaynerchuk's got interest. He likes going to like garage sales, right? But all his like CEO friends kind of look down on him for that because they think it's kind of like he's like they see it as not what an executive should be doing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Gary V understands that like the more people who understand what he's about, the the more impact he can have. And at the end, that's what this is really all about, is having an impact, having a legacy. The other scar, and this is one that I was very lucky with for quite a while, but like I didn't get paid 20K worth of invoices last year, which must be like, damn, that's like probably 20% of my overall income
uh-huh.
last year. And so the solution there is to like take as much payment up front as possible. And then, but what that makes me think about is like just being a good person, and like not
Right,
building businesses for quick profit, which the people who owe me money are doing. They just are trying to profit quickly and then discard of their this business that they're creating. Really, they're creating like a financial arbitrage machine. And
right.
like building for the long term also fits in more with this like approach of like integrating all your interests and like what you're passionate about and like moving forward. So like this show, it's like, how does this show fit into like the fact that like basically I own goldsilverbitcoin.com. I think that that's probably something I should pursue further. Well, it's because this is like me. This is like something that I enjoy doing. Sitting and doing this podcast with you, I want to do that. And so
Right.
that's the only reason that I need. That's how it fits in. So I guess to summarize, like the couple of mistakes are like not creating like purposeful content towards a goal. And also like not buying into the clickbait aspects of the internet, because that gives you like quick return, but it's not
Yeah,
really building a legacy or helping you build anything of meaning.
right.
And then also a part of that, which I haven't mentioned yet, is I didn't post on social media. I think that I wanted to be a more private person. Well, I'm not quite so sure that posting on social media or not has anything to do with privacy.
It doesn't. Yeah, I had to learn that too.
And then therefore, like all it is an opportunity to like build that legacy. And then the other thing is like, when you don't get paid, sometimes listening to Tupac, Rihanna, and like other rappers isn't the best what coping measure.
When you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
I can see that. I totally agree with you with the eclectic approach. That's it tortured me for a long time, and I think coming into middle age really helped that because I had a track record of this is who I am, this is what I like to do. I started writing poetry again recently. I opened up a new page, and I'm trying to generate cross traffic there. After my fast, I'm right with you. I mean, I use social media foolishly. Of look at me, how cool, because I'm drunk again. Like everyone's good at being drunk. That's really no one cares, you know. And so I wanted to get rid of all that. And then, as you know, when I was doing my anti-military activism, I became not like popular, but I was more public than I had been, and I did want to turn away from that, especially because I was still dealing with, you know, some PTSD from Iraq. I still had an undiagnosed traumatic brain injury, which was not being treated for, and et cetera, et cetera. And I wish I now had that, you know, the 4,000 posts on my Instagram account, you know, and because it says you've been there and you've been doing it for a long time, but no regrets, because now I have a healthy approach to it. I feel like I know what I'm doing. When I come out of this fast, I know I'm going to cross-platform, open up some Facebook accounts, you know, and expand. So I think it's great. I really wanted to. Well, here's the other thing. I had old notions about, well, I wanted to write a book, or even something as simple as like, oh, I want to write a blogger, right? Well, what's to say that that's any different than putting out lengthy captions on my Instagram account, since I like to write and I know how to write. And that's been great because I can wake up, drink my coffee, get back to people, write a post, you know, think some, and then it's also been a challenge because you got to get it in the character space allowed, you know. And it's very exciting because it does mean that I can integrate all my passions, from poetry to skiing to liberal arts to archery. You know, it's all there. And I can't wait. Personally, this pandemic could say maybe I wanted it to come in 2025 when I was better set up, because I always, as an armchair historian, knew we were one stress test away from something like this. You know, and you and I were talking after 2008 when Greenspan was bringing in the quantitative easing, that there was definitely going to be repercussions down the road should something like this happen. And here we are. But it's allowed the noise everywhere, the noise to drop down around me. And a lot of these projects that I've been putting off that I want to do for the legacy, for whatever it's going to turn into, we're here now, man. We're doing it. So there's blessings everywhere.
Yeah, and this is only the start. You mentioned '08, the quantitative easing. I got the timing off, man. I went to Brazil. I thought things was going to fall apart then.
Yeah, no, me too. I was in Venezuela. You were in Brazil. I mean, we both kind of had done that together. I was trying to make my way down to Brazil, but escaping Caracas was damn near impossible. And then there's a lot of apparently there's a lot of rainforest between the north coast of South America and this southern part of Brazil. So walking wasn't much of an option.
I remember when I got to Brazil, like one of the first things I did was I went to look for like a hiking book, like for the local hikes. And everyone was like, nah, if you go hiking, you're going to get
no one Yeah. Yep. No one hikes down there. They're smarter than us.
I was like, man, where are the hiking books, dude? There's like forest everywhere.
Yeah. They're like, no, there's only like maps to like illegal gold mines or drug plantations. Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, so when we talk about your Venezuela adventures, like I wonder, like, so that's not the history podcast. Is that like what's the equivalent of discussing your adventure in Venezuela at Sierra Nevada Community College or whatever? What was it? Just
Sierra Nevada University.
Sierra Nevada University. Like, what course would that have fallen under?
You know, I would want to say that it would have fallen under the course I took, but they would never let me do it. So, I mean, I had an interdisciplinary degree in outdoor adventure leadership and humanities. So the concept was a sort of a integrative learning platform, and you know, I don't want to be like super mean, because the professors were really nice and they were really great people. However, I didn't necessarily, well, you don't get from the public education system. Let's put it that way. And they all went through it. And so when I went to college at at 30, presumably my professors at a liberal arts college 100 years ago would have been speaking Greek and Latin by 10 or 12, or they would have had no hope of hitting professorship. Zero. And what I found is that the entire classical liberal mentality was gone. And so I would say, in terms of our podcast, I mean, it would probably maybe be good for the lifestyle. Elective course. Yeah. And that I mean, something I really would like to talk about the universities, because not right now, but as we go along, because they're
That's a
burning, man.
philosophy. That's the philosophy
Yeah.
podcast, right? And then
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the history and all that stuff. Like, so I think, like, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like we're going to meet once a week. We're going to film, or we're going to record up the podcast, and it's either going to fall under one of like several brands, whether that be history, philosophy, elective, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe we can
That's the way
get broader categories, like pick 3.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. That's kind of like how Vaynerchuk's running his stuff. It's like he's got a YouTube. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. He has like a YouTube network.
Right.
And he's got his garage sale stuff. He's got his 4Ds, which is like really, really valuable, like business insight. Like, so if you're interested in like kind of like the business side of things, then I suggest that you like dig into his 4Ds in particular.
Okay.
It's just one of the shows that he offers. Now,
Okay.
oftentimes his advice boils down to create content, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what it's set up. So like small business owners go in and they ask him questions, and he just responds kind of like off the top of his head. And that's how I kind of see that. That's the way I see everyone having to kind of model everything in the future, is that you don't have a channel, you have a network, and you've got different shows, programs, and that's how you can really experiment, which I think is something that we're going to have to do.
I think we're going to be doing a lot of that moving forward, which I'm excited about, because like Gary says, love the process.
Yeah. Do you play bass? Did you ever play bass?
I play a little bit of bass. In fact, I did an elective at Sierra Nevada University, so I'm not any good, but I can probably play the roots of chords.
They have a bass elective.
Yeah. Well, it was a music elective.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the bass.
It was a guitar was the only one they offered, but the guitar teacher also played bass, and I was like, hey man, can we do the bass instead? Because I've always been I've always been a guy that wanted to play bass over guitar, for whatever reason.
Yeah. No, I think one of the biggest conspiracies of our time is actually like this reputation that the bass player is like kind of like less important than the singer and the guitar player or whatever, because when you put on the popular music, it's like all bass driven.
Yeah. Isn't that funny now? I've spent hours and hours and hours going through popular music too, so that could be a fun and interesting podcast that we do too. Yeah,
I have. Okay, so like I'm guessing at the age of like 27, so I'm 33 now. So like 5 years ago, I saw my friend who's like Mike.
You're
Murdoch.
Definitely a millennial. You're an old millennial.
My Mike Murdoch is a friend. I don't know if you met him. He crashed on my couch for a long time in Oregon, and he is like a musical savant. And when I had an epiphany that when he was listening to like only pop music, and I was like, he's only listening to pop music, and he's so much better than like everyone that I know that plays music. Like if he really applied himself, if he also like cleaned up his diet and like lived a pure life, like he would be making like 17th century status, like classical, like music. And he's listening to pop music. He was like, no, this stuff, it costs like $1 million to make a song. Like this stuff is like perfectly produced. Like I started listening to pop music. And so I think that you're right. We could do a lot of episodes on like pop music, and like particularly like why are the same songs played on the radio for like 40 years now? Yeah, it's something, right? Because they're perfectly produced. It's like when Disney makes an animated movie world, right? Their first movie costs them a ton to produce, it costs them a ton to make, and then they put out sequel, and they all suck. Well, because the world's already built, so now they're just milking it, and a lot of this popular music, I feel like
I almost want to call it a popular production. It's almost not music. It's so well produced. And because what it is it's a sequence of psychological hooks. And if you go back to the Theodore Adorno, right, the sociologist, he talked about popular music being one that's just meant to satisfy the listener's apprehensions, anticipations, satisfy the listener's anticipations.
Yeah.
And so what you have is you basically have a computer program interfacing with the human brain. That's, here's a little bit of dopamine, here's a little surge here, here's, you know, do you like that adrenaline? Is that okay? Wait for it, because right at 2 minutes and 34 seconds, and you're going to get this big, you know, low frequency. And you'll hear it too when you listen to a lot of the pop music, the high frequency blurs that just go here and there, here and there. It's just tricking your brain into, is there another one? So the consequence of that is that you don't have melodies anymore, you know, and a lot of popular music, you're lacking the melodies, and what you're getting is just psychic interfaces with stuff that's just kind of messing with your brain and tripping it out. So like you brought 17th century classical music. Well, that brought and just after, and that brought in science to a whole new forebear of making music that was really elevating, really uplifting, and it had a very strong basis in Western civilization in the churches. Who was it? Mozart that was the first to hear the silent fifth or something like this, a big secret of the churches. And he could hear it because he was such a savant. And then he started putting it into music. Apparently the church was very upset about that because that was their, you know, their secret note. Now it's all coming out of rigorous psychological testing, computer models, which parts of the brain light up. Now it's kind of like, well, maybe the science has taken some of the soul out of the music. That's my take.
And this is only going to like become more pronounced, this trend, because with Spotify, which isn't that old, those with access to the data are going to be able to like understand how people are interacting with the music on a level that I'm not sure was quite available before. Like it's only going to become more precise. Like they're going to be able to see like who and when and how they listen to the music. So for instance, how far are people getting into a specific song even? And
Right.
Already we've got like this notion where, and this is kind of an older notion, like from when I was a kid, I was aware that like in pop music, you wanted to get to the chorus at approximately 30 seconds. And I imagine that with the data that we're going to be seeing from Spotify, that's going to be put up to 15 seconds.
Could be.
Or shit, the chorus is going to come first.
Yeah, it could be. And you'll even hear it. Yeah. With online games are continually running algorithms to aggregate data, and it's just all real time, nonstop. And what they can do is they can hotfix patches in games to level out, make the win rates 50-50, you know, or closer to 50-50. And if someone's win rate is going up to 52 or 54, they can plug it back down instantly. What you're talking about with Spotify is the same thing. That data is continually being aggregated. If they want to jack up a win rate of a song from 54% to 68%, it wouldn't be very difficult to do. No, not at all.
All right, Benji, I think we've been talking for like an hour now. Is there anything else you want
About
to?
perfect. No, I just look forward to next week. I look forward to going back over this video. I started putting up things on my Instagram last week, and generally I'm excited to practice talking and public speaking and getting better at it with another person. And also now that you've inspired me to get everything set up, I'll probably just be practicing by myself while I fast as well. So I'm looking forward to doing more than less during quarantine since we all have the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Benji, I look forward to doing this again real soon.
Sounds good, bud. Thank you.